So now we're cooking. Now we're cooking with gas with this episode of Boruto. Last week's episode, it was kind of like, whatevs. This week's episode, which based on the spoilers, based on the previews and everything, I knew we were going to get something nice, and I'm glad and pleasantly, I wouldn't say surprised because I knew it was going to be hype. This episode really dived into actually the plot, which is something that a lot of these episodes seem to escape. And if this episode is any indication on the future of Boruto and where the series and story is going, then this is a good sign because it's finally starting to diverge from those episodes where we're in the class and we're having these small problems, which for a while it was knocking it out the park, to be honest with you. You know, including myself, everybody was in agreement. Boruto's doing some good shit. This episode, though, broke away from the mold of the freak of the week, so to speak, and we went into a different direction. I mean, there were some inklings in there where I was just kind of like, Boruto, why you got them communist shades, bro? You think we don't see that? You think us Gurren Lagann fans ain't seen that shit, bro? Like, yo, we know you've been watching some Gurren. Nah, it was funny when we seen them at the movies because I remember, I believe it was Naruto movie 1, The Clash of the Snow or something like that, where they were actually at the movies, but I think it was because, like, you know, it was a movie that they played it off, that it really wasn't real, something along the lines of that. We've gotten to the point where, yeah, now, Boruto and his peoples, Iwabe and everybody, they're actually at the movies and they're watching a new flick and shit like that. So it was kind of like a neat little homage, and I do feel as though, similar to a series like Dragon Ball Super, they throw constant nods to some of the stuff that happened in the original, whether it's connections with the characters or just little small events like that, you know, them being at the movies. Because I believe Naruto's done that a couple of different times, if I'm not mistaken, where they played it off that they're at the movies. So that was a nice little nod there. I mean, I think Boruto took it a little bit overboard, and again, that's due to my age, so that's not really a critique in particular, but it's like, I felt as though, if I was 15 years old, I would have been like, yeah, man, that's cool, and Boruto's with the shades, and he's trying to emulate that action hero and shit like that. Me now, I'm like, yeah, I'm 26 years old, which again, isn't any bearing on the show. I know that the primary demographic for Boruto, they're like, okay, if you're an old fan of the old show, cool, but they really want to get the new kids in there, and there's nothing wrong with that, so not really a critique against the episode itself. It was just more so personal preference that I was just kind of like, yeah, whatever. But the way the episode started, I ain't gonna lie, because I've said this before in many different videos, that Toneri would be great somewhere, even if it's just the story of what happened or something, a reference. But the fact that they're implementing Toneri into the Boruto series, I was like, now we're getting into some good shit, because even though Toneri wasn't really the greatest villain and all that, but the fact that the Tenseigan and what he represents, which everybody was like, there's nothing to do with the Tenseigan, what are you talking about? When I mentioned that Boruto's eye looks similar to Tenseigan, like, nah, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, yeah, Toneri, Tenseigan, where you at with that, huh? Like, yeah. So, in the beginning, we had Toneri saying that Boruto is the key to all of it in the comment, and then, of course, during the episode as well, he came to Boruto in a dream, and he told him something similar, that pretty much he's the hope to an oncoming crisis, or something bad is going to happen, and basically Boruto is the hope. I'm guessing he's referring to what's supposed to happen with that Kawaki guy whenever it happens or whatever, so I think that was an inclination of what's to happen. Again, we don't know much about Kawaki and what he represents, and how much he did outside of the destruction of the leaf and all that shit, but I'm assuming that that's what he's referring to, that Boruto is supposed to be the hope because of that crisis that we're supposed to see at some given point in the Boruto series. But nevertheless, Toneri's connection now is making me think, if Toneri gave Boruto the eye, how? Was it that since he had a connection with Hinata way back in the last, that stood remnants of there, maybe Toneri's chakra was in there, and then as Boruto was born, it got passed on to Boruto? A lot of questions, but then again, a lot of good things, because it's like, if Boruto's gonna get this interesting eye and these powers and all this shit, then let it be for a good reason. And what better than Toneri, the man that loved Hinata? He wanted to do one thing for her. If he couldn't have kids with her and have a family with her, okay, well, I'm gonna do something good for her son so that he could protect the world and shit like that. So Toneri's inclusion into this episode and into the Boruto storyline, really fascinating, and I thought that was a really nice touch, and again, a great breakaway from what Boruto was up until this point, minus a couple episodes where it was just like, hey, freak of the week classroom shit. Now we're getting into the plot and the meat of things and what's wrong with Boruto's eye and what's going on in the future of the story. So it's really breaking away, and again, I loved it, and I think a big part of it was Toneri and also focusing in on Boruto's eye that has been for already over a year with the manga, and then now the anime, having me like, what the fuck is going on? Then, of course, Boruto believing that he has Byakugan, which kind of makes me think, bro, you've seen your mom, right? Like, your mom has Byakugan. That don't look like no Byakugan. So when he looked in the mirror and saw it, and it was a Tenseigan, it's like, you can't tell the difference, bro? Like, whoa. And then that it's in one eye. It's kind of classic, you know, I don't want to say lazy writing, but in a way at the same time, it's like, well, why didn't you fill them in on every single detail? It's in one eye. It looks different than the Byakugan. I mean, you could argue, hey, it's because he's a young kid, but it kind of made me think like, yo, tell them all the facts. And then Naruto. My boy, you've changed. I remember back in the day, Naruto was a lot more, I want to say understanding, and you would think with everything that he's been through and people not believing him and not giving a fuck about him when he was little, that he would be more sympathetic. But even with his own son, he's like, bro, until we get all the facts, I don't know. Like, I'm not going to completely disregard what you're saying because of what happened, which great reference, which I urge and encourage everyone that has not seen the little OVA, the day Naruto became Hokage, to go watch it, because this episode actually references it, that Himawari activated the Byakugan. So really cool little reference there, again, going back to stuff that I guess it is really canon, because some people say, oh, that's not canon, but I believe the one shot was actually even drew by Kishimoto himself, and then of course they did the OVA of that, so nice little reference there. But it's like, Naruto, bro, your son, I mean, is he a habitual liar? Has he lied about a lot of things in the past? I mean, yeah, maybe he's been a troublemaker and he's done little dastardly deeds, but I think he's not gonna lie about that. So Naruto kind of had me a little bit like, man, I know, you know, people get older and shit like that, and he has responsibilities and he has to look at things in all angles, but a part of me is like, just believe your fucking son, bro. Like, it's your son. Believe in him. Just quickly, Mitsuki throughout the episode on that creep status. 1 minute Shika dies at the table. Next minute Mitsuki's right next to him. I'm like, bro, on that creep status, which is a cool element though, because we have the Mitsuki element, which is such a mystery. Then we got Toneri, we got Boruto's eye. It's slowly bringing in all these little mysteries one at a time here and there. So we got a lot of things going on around just in and of itself, the story of, you know, the coming of age of Boruto Uzumaki. So we have a lot of cool things surrounding what Boruto is himself. And then, I ain't gonna lie, seeing Naruto taking Boruto and Himawari to, I believe it's Hinata's father or whatever, you know, the Hyuga temple itself, I was like, ooh, this is gonna be bad. Because I always wondered, how did he feel about Hinata not being with a Hyuga, doing her own thing, and at the same time about these half-breeds? Like, what would he say about it? And at first I was like, yeah, what I expected, but it was a really good surprise as well, which is diving more into the Naruto mythology. Hey, we got 15 plus years, whatever, of this mythology, let's use it, to see that the Hyuga clan has softened up over the years, to see that he was just like, oh, my grandchildren, and even to see Hanabi, that was fucking cool as well. I ain't gonna lie, just all these little references and shit like that. I was like, yeah, I dig it. Seeing the Hyuga clan changed a bit, and that, you know, of course it goes back to the theme that was overly used of Naruto changes everyone that he comes in contact with, but you see the Hyuga clan has changed, and for the better. They're not complete pieces of shit like they were back in the day. And the episode ended off with a setup of Boruto versus his grandfather. Let's see if you got that Byakugan. I ain't gonna lie, this episode, really, really good stuff. Honestly, I would argue a great setup episode with so many mysteries coming in. We got Toneri, we got diving more into Boruto's eye, we got seeing the Hyuga clans change, we got more of Naruto in the episode, a little bit of Hinata, Hinabi. Like, honestly, I think this episode was a great episode. I'm giving this one a 9 out of 10 for a setup episode. It did a lot of good things. A couple of things that I didn't really care for, again, was the movie scenes of, like, you know, Boruto trying to emulate that guy and shit like that. But even when it started diving into a little bit of Boruto's personal problems again, like, yo, you're my father, you don't even believe me, what the fuck is your problem? Like, I really appreciated that. And overall, just seeing Boruto really trying to understand and, you know, figure out what's going on with him, his eye, his powers, these dreams he's having about this weirdo Toneri, is like really great stuff. But I'm kind of curious what you guys thought about this episode. For starters, what do you think Toneri is referencing? Is he talking about the oncoming threat of Kawaki and Boruto's going to be the one to save them from that? Also, what is his connection? Did he put some chakra in Hinata? Hey, I can't be with you, but at the very least I could do something for your kids in the future. And I was kind of curious, is it, because I don't remember exactly what happened to Toneri at the end of the last. Did Toneri actually die, or did he survive and he's still up there? Because that was something as well that kind of had me curious. To me, I think that personally it's Toneri's chakra that's doing all this. He left some chakra in Hinata, banged Naruto and Hinata, had a kid, and the chakra passed on to Boruto to a small degree. And at the same time, that also makes sense, even though it still feels illogical. But hey, look what happened with Kakashi with those fucking, I got Mangekyo on both my eyes for 5 seconds. Why not, right? Chakra can make you have these eyes. So maybe that's what it is. And eventually Boruto will lose the Tenseigan, although he does have it as an adult when he's fighting Kawaki. So that must be some crazy chakra, or maybe ultimately he learns how to control it himself without actually needing Toneri anymore. And what do you think about seeing the change in the Hyuga clan after all these years? Is like, they softened up, and I ain't gonna lie, I actually thought it was nice to see. Like, they changed a lot. They were pieces of shit back then. Even Hanabi with her little rivalry with Hinata is like, she cares about her niece and nephew. She was so happy. So honestly, beautiful stuff there. And your overall thoughts of the episode? Do you feel as though it was a great episode? Personally, I was like, this is where Boruto needs to head now. We had a nice, good bunch of setup episodes, getting the classroom stuff. Let's go in this direction. Great shit. But that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and stalk my Facebook to get more when the video ends. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day.